presently I am the regional mission leader for Eastern Canada for Resonate. Been in that position 2 years, but before and still presently church planting. Have had 4 church plants and a restart in our story. So still able and running and ready to go.
Hi, I'm Barry Fellinger, the other half. Currently, I work at West Elgin Community Health Center, where I direct the 5 community teams. I met Beth in seminary, so that's where we kind of started our career, and pastored for a while, and then ended up moving more into the counseling sphere. And in addition to working full-time at the health center, I also teach leadership for both Western University's Continuing Studies program and now for Master's College and Seminary in Peterborough. That's yours.
Yeah. So first church plant that we were part of actually happened by accident. Nope, that was the second one. First one, I guess we've been in pastoral ministry a long time, and one of the churches that we went to, probably our second church, had 12 people left in it, and we had to get rid of 6 of them in order for the church to be able to grow. So it was probably more a restart, but it meant that you could reframe, rethink, redo. And I always get excitement about brand new people coming to faith. And so when I see them start to grow and know my heart does big things. And so the opportunity to start and regrow that church really connected something inside. And even though I pastored in established churches, there's always this little itch to go outside into the community and do something different. So, and God seems to confirm it when I do. When we do.
And the one you're talking about, I mean, it wasn't just transfer growth as people were coming to the church. It was new people coming to faith, as well as some who had previously left because of situations at the church started coming back. But on top of that, we saw people coming to faith as well. So it was a mixture of both in that kind of renew church plant, as Beth described it.
I think one that really kind of struck a chord for me too was when our son was in high school, grade 11, and they had been through 3 different strikes with the school system. Only this one was a work to rule strike, and it was really, really hard on the kids. And our son is a basketball player. So what happened was there was no basketball team, and there was no place for the kids to go. I would come home from work every day.
And our house was about to fall apart from all the teens bouncing basketballs off the wall in the basement.
It's a good job
right?
we had paneling.
But they had no music, they had no drama, they had no art, they had no sports, they had no, right? It was
and
just
we just saw
brutal.
them falling apart. I had just gotten involved with Alpha and doing some Alpha stuff, and I thought, can we do it for youth? And so I said to the kids, it was a risk. It was like, if I make you pizza once a week, will you come and talk to me about God for an hour? And so we had 17 kids who came through that first Alpha course, and we said to them, will you help us critique this?
Because teenagers can be honest.
Right?
Right.
And that lasted 9 years. And over 40 kids would show up at our house on Sunday nights. And just the stories of transformation in their hearts. So this is a fun place to be. It's a hard place to be. It's easier. I'm not saying that church work is ever easy, but sometimes there's rhythm in an established church, and you're building the rhythm in a church plant. And I think maybe my ADD just kicks in really well and says, let's go have fun. But I knew that calling was there to be able to share the gospel with others. So one of the last established churches I was on staff at, that we had connected to the local high school and done some pretty cool stuff. The time was coming, and I just knew that seed planting was like so important. And I was sitting in my living room one night with my computer, and a job thing came up saying church planter wanted in St. Thomas, and I looked at Barry and said, we're moving.
It was quick.
This is me. And he was like,
What?
okay. So I don't know whether it's the risk of it or whether there's just this Holy Spirit driven passion that takes you places saying, hey, I want to hang out with people who don't know the gospel and share with them a story that actually makes sense. I think my Facebook page says moving people closer to Jesus one step at a time.
And I think, if I can comment too, it's like you've always, not to sound detrimental or negative towards other people, but being in some established churches and church plants in a mixture, but not necessarily always being the senior person, is learning from observing and thinking, you know what, I might do that a little differently, or I would do that differently. So the opening in St. Thomas, which was, it all fell into place, which was miraculous in the first place, was that was the God giving the opportunity to, okay, you think you can do it, right? Obviously not on your own with his help, but I'm giving you the opportunity now to kind of live into all those things you've learned from other church plants and seen other leaders do that you would, do or not do, and all those things. It was like, it's wide open now. Here you go. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think if I look where I am now, I'm still church planting at heart. Even being in a job in the denomination, it's not enough to sit in the office and help other people. I still need to be on the ground. People used to ask me how I trained teenagers to be leaders, and I said I threw them in the pool. And if they floundered, I'd pick them up, dry them off, and throw them back in. Until you jump into the deep end, you don't know. But I think when the holy discontent gets to be so strong in you that you have a Popeye moment, you just go and say, I'm going to do it.
Well, I think too, it was as far as, destination through Fellowship Church, who was the sponsoring, it was, you had the 3 strikes against you. So it was like, female and not a Christian Reformed background, not Dutch, if we can say that. And it was like, okay, so God, if you're in this, I feel like you want me to apply, that this is the direction I'm supposed to go. So I'm just, I think that was part of the faith journey, was I'm just turning it over to you. And if you close the door, you close the door. But obviously kept opening the doors. So that kind of took you to destination.
Can I tell you a story that really just pushes that? So one of the things that really created this calling piece for me, or said, let's go do this. I had just survived my first round of cancer. I had 3 teenage kids who said, I want to go camping. And I was watching God do amazing things in all of them, and yet I felt a little dry. And yet I knew that he was at work. So we go camping. We're in a tent. I don't do tents anymore, but I was doing a tent that weekend. But at the nighttime, the sun was coming down, and I said to the girls, why don't we just go watch the sunset on the beach? And part of that was they walked faster than me and were younger, and I wasn't up to total par yet. So they were down the beach, and there was a picnic table, and I sat on the picnic table, and I said, God, I'm available. Pretty presumptuous on my part, but it was like, I have this time, just talk to me. I'm hungry, I'm thirsty. I really need you to tell me what next steps are. And he said nothing. It was as silent as it could be, and I was like, but I'm here, and I'm not busy, and I'm listening. Nothing. I opened my Bible, sawdust. So we watched the sun go down. We came back up. We went to bed. Needless to say, I was up earlier than them. It was about 6:30 in the morning. Went to the bathroom and thought, I'm not coming back. I'm not laying back down in that tent. Grabbed a copy of my Bible, and I went back down to the beach. Normally, at that time of the morning, people should be walking their dogs, and there should be people. There was no one on the beach. Sat at the same picnic table. Funny, we're at another picnic table. And as I sat there, I saw all of these kettles in the water. some that were buried and some that had come up out of the water. And I got thinking of all the kids and all the people who have gone through our ministry. And I said, God, when will it be? What needs to happen?
How far, how long?
For how long for those kids, all of them, will be evident in their faith and will have risen out of. And all of a sudden, I looked to my left, and there was a gentleman, I assume in his 70s, dress pants and a muscle shirt, not usual beach attire, really clean cut. And he said, "It's a beautiful day, isn't it?" And I said, "It's a gorgeous day." And he said, "I bet I can tell you what you're thinking." And I was like, "Oh, wow, that's pretty darn good." And he said, "You're thinking about the memories of youth and what it would take to grow them." Then I kind of freaked out a little bit. And then he said, "I don't think it's going to be a long time." And in the process of that, he turned and walked off and disappeared off the beach. And then I had the most overwhelming sense of the presence of God. But I'm impatient. And I said, "Okay, God, if that's going to happen, how long, how far, until I don't have to tell my neighbors about Jesus because they're going to know?" And then I looked out, and there was a guy in a kayak, about 45-ish. The most perfect stroke I've ever seen. No sweat. And he's doing this, and then all of a sudden he pulls in right in front of me on the shoreline. And he says, "It's a beautiful day, isn't it?" And I said, "Yeah, it's a gorgeous day." And he said, I've been kayaking since Kincardine, which is like at 6 o'clock in the morning. He's been in that kayak for a bit, and no sweat. And he said, "I just wondered how far and how long to the next town, because if it's not that far, I will keep going." And I said, "Well, Goderich isn't that far away. It's a 5-minute drive." He said, "Then I'm going to keep going." And he turned and he kayaked off into the water and just disappeared on the horizon. And that same sense of God showed up. And then I opened my Bible, and Isaiah 12 popped up. And at the end of Isaiah 12 says, "And God will do great things before your very eyes." That has been my verse from that moment till now. So every time I think I'm risking something, or every time I'm thinking the what ifs, or is it worth it, I hear, "And God will do great things before your very eyes." And I jump.